Hi, I'll start off with a quote posted on brainyquote.com by Naveen Jain. Just think of the opportunities we can unlock by making education as addictive as a video game. This type of experiential addictive learning improves decision making skills and increases the processing speed and spatial skills of the brain. When was the last time your child asked for help in a video game? Hi, I'm Bernard Thompson, and today I will be talking to you about, do violent video games cause behavioral problems? Now, I will go over why I believe that video games, particularly violent video games, don't play a major role in everyday violence in America. I will also talk about how society blames video games for violent behaviors instead of addressing the individual responsibility and actions of people. So, do violent video games cause behavioral problems? Some may say yes, and that they affect the mental stability of the user. But first, let's address my defensive stance on why I don't believe violent video games cause behavioral problems. I am 34 years old, and I have been playing video games since I was about 5 years old. And one of my favorite games to play when I was a kid was Contra, released by Konami. Now, in this game, your objective was to take a special forces commando through a series of levels while shooting your way through hordes of alien invaders in hopes of saving the world. Now, you could take this adventure on by yourself, or you can play with a friend working together towards a common goal. Now, after playing this game, it didn't make me want to go out and grab my father's guns and go out into the real world and shoot people or anything I conceived to be bad. I knew that I was playing a game. Now, a fun fact that I read about in usnews.com is an article named "In Defense of Violent Video Games." The author, Patrick Markey, a renowned professor of psychology at Villanova University, whose expertise is the negative effects violent video games, says, researchers have argued that although these studies do not directly measure real-world violence, the results suggest that video games might be one of several risk factors, with other examples as poverty, gun availability, family environment, and etc. that contribute to violent behavior. Therefore, the reasoning goes, even if violent video games are only a small contributing factor to violence because so many people are exposed to such media, the negative effect of violent video games at the societal level would be immense. Now, contrary to this dire statement, in the past 15 years, sales of video games have consistently increased, whereas homicides, rapes, and aggravated assaults during this same time have decreased. It appears that any negative effect of violent video games is dwarfed by the effects of other societal factors mentioned above. Now, next, I will talk about how society blames video games for violent behaviors instead of addressing the individual responsibility and the actions of people. Society tends to forget that a person's environment, whether good or bad, plays a crucial part in the development of becoming a productive citizen in the world as we know it. Now, an article written by Cormac Foster on readwrite.com titled, "Do Violent Video Games Really Cause Violent Behavior?" He says, it's also important to remember that if there is a link between violent video games and aggressive behavior that does not imply a casualty, violent criminals may very well choose violent video games. But tens of millions of gamers play these games every week, and the vast majority are law-abiding citizens. You don't see them going out on killing sprees or blowing up cars and buildings, do you? Of course not. Now, where does personal responsibility come into play to know what is right and what is wrong? And if a person can't decipher that, then there was a problem to be addressed long before that individual even started to play a violent video game. Now, whether it be mental instability of some sort or just a poor parenting environment, which allowed the individual to believe that it was all right to condone such violence, but to blame it on a game, now, where's the logic in that? That's like if I go out and robbed a bank at once, and once I got caught. the authorities asked me what made me rob this bank, and my response was, the dog told me to do it. That's exactly how it sounds when you blame video games for violent crimes. Now, in conclusion, I talked to you guys about do violent video games cause violent behaviors. I also talked to you all about how society blames video games for violence in everyday life. So does violent video games cause violent behaviors? Hopefully I've provided you with enough information to prove to you that violent video games doesn't cause violent behaviors. Now I will leave you with a quote from brainyquotes.com written by Simon Sinek. And yes, I love brainyquotes.com. And the quote goes like this: the only time I waste is time I spend doing something that in my gut I know I shouldn't. If I choose to spend my time playing video games or sleeping in, then it's time well spent because I chose to do it. I did it for a reason, to relax, to decompress, or to feel good. And that was what I wanted to do. Thank you for your time. Again, I'm Bernard Thompson.